Hey, welcome back to English Echo Daily, the podcast where you practice real English while talking about things that actually matter in your life. And today we are getting into a topic that I think every single person listening has felt at some point: the comfort zone, that invisible line between where you are and where you could be.
And before we get into it, we want to hear from you right now. Go to the comments and tell us, what is one thing you've been wanting to do, but fear has been stopping you? It could be anything: learning something new, changing jobs, having a difficult conversation, moving to a new city. Drop it in the comments. We read every single one.
Okay, so let's start here because I think the phrase comfort zone is so overused that people have stopped really thinking about what it means. We hear it all the time: get out of your comfort zone, but nobody ever really stops to ask, why is it so hard? Like, if we know the good stuff is on the other side, why do we keep choosing to stay?
And I think that question is actually the whole conversation. Because the answer isn't laziness, it isn't weakness. The reason staying inside your comfort zone is so easy and leaving it is so hard is because your brain was literally designed to keep you there. That's the function of the comfort zone. It's a survival mechanism.
Right. And when you understand it that way, you stop being so hard on yourself. You're not broken because you feel scared to try new things. You're just human. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do: protect you from the unknown, keep you in familiar territory, avoid risk.
The problem is that the brain doesn't distinguish between real danger and perceived danger. Standing at the edge of a cliff and standing at the edge of a career change, emotionally, they feel similar. Your heart beats faster, you feel resistance. Your brain sends the signal, don't do this. And for most of human history, that signal kept people alive. But today, most of the things we're afraid of won't actually kill us. They'll just be uncomfortable.
And uncomfortable has become the enemy, which is interesting because if you look at any meaningful growth in a person's life, any skill they build, any relationship that transformed them, any achievement they're proud of, almost all of it happened in discomfort, not in the safe, predictable, familiar space, on the edge of it.
There's actually a concept in psychology called the optimal anxiety zone, or sometimes people call it the growth zone. And the idea is that a small amount of stress and discomfort is actually the ideal state for learning and performance. Too comfortable and you're not growing. Too terrified and you shut down. But that middle space where you're a little nervous, a little stretched, that's where the magic happens.
And I think this is a really important reframe for people who think that getting out of your comfort zone means doing something terrifying every single day. It doesn't. It doesn't mean jumping out of airplanes or quitting your job on a Monday morning. It just means consistently putting yourself in situations that are slightly beyond what feels easy. That's it.
Slightly beyond. That phrase is doing a lot of work, isn't it? Because I think one of the biggest mistakes people make when they decide to leave their comfort zone is going way too far, way too fast. Like they've never exercised in their life and they sign up for a marathon. They've never spoken publicly and they volunteer to give a speech to 500 people. And then it goes badly or it feels overwhelming and they use that experience as proof that they were right to stay where they were.
See, I tried stepping out and it was awful. That's not for me. And the lesson they learn is the wrong lesson. The lesson isn't this is impossible. The lesson should be I went too far too fast. The exposure needs to be gradual. You stretch the zone, you don't shatter it.
And this connects to something I find really fascinating: the idea that your comfort zone is not fixed, it's elastic. Every time you do something slightly uncomfortable and survive it, and you always survive it, the zone expands. What felt scary last year might feel completely normal today. And that's not because the thing changed, it's because you changed.
I love that because people talk about the comfort zone like it's a room with a locked door, and it's not. It's more like a muscle. If you never stretch it, it stays tight. If you stretch it too hard, you injure it. But if you stretch it consistently, a little at a time, it becomes more and more flexible.
And the practical implication of that is actually quite empowering. You don't need to wait until you feel brave. Bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's doing the thing while the fear is still there. And the more times you do that, the less fear there is. Not because you become fearless, but because the brain updates its database. Oh, we did that thing and we were fine. It goes into the safe category now.
That's such an important point. I want to stay on it for a second because I think a lot of people are waiting to feel confident before they act. They want to feel ready, want to feel brave, want to feel certain, and then they'll do the scary thing. But that's backwards. Confidence doesn't create action, action creates confidence.
Action creates confidence. Say it louder, because this is one of those things that is very easy to understand intellectually and very hard to actually feel when you're in the moment of fear. In the moment, every part of you is saying, wait until you're more prepared, more ready, more experienced. And that voice sounds reasonable. It sounds like wisdom, but it's actually just fear wearing a suit.
Fear wearing a suit. I love that. And the suit changes depending on the situation. Sometimes it sounds like perfectionism. I'll do it when it's perfect. Sometimes it sounds like research. I just need to learn a little more first. Sometimes it sounds like timing. I'll start on Monday. I'll start in January. I'll start when the kids are older, when work slows down. And years go by, and the thing never gets done. Not because you didn't want it, but because the conditions you were waiting for never arrived, because the conditions were never the real issue. The real issue was that moving toward the thing felt uncomfortable, and everything you did was designed unconsciously to avoid that discomfort.
So how do you actually break that pattern? Like practically, if someone is listening to this and they recognize themselves in what we're describing, what's the move?
I think the first move is to get honest about what you're actually avoiding, because it's almost never the thing itself. It's almost always the feeling associated with the thing. You're not afraid of public speaking. You're afraid of looking foolish in front of others. You're not afraid of starting the business. You're afraid of failing and having people see you fail. You're not afraid of the conversation. You're afraid of rejection or conflict. Name the actual fear. Get specific.
Because once you name it, it loses some of its power. Vague fear is enormous. It fills the whole room. But specific fear, I'm afraid that I'll say the wrong thing and someone will think I'm stupid, that's manageable. That's something you can actually look at and question. Is that the most likely outcome? Is that the worst thing that could actually happen? Usually the answer to both is no.
And this is where a simple question can change everything. Not what's the worst that could happen. People ask that and still catastrophize. But what's the most likely thing that happens if I do this? Most of the time, the most likely outcome is it's a little awkward, or it doesn't work the first time, or some people don't respond the way you hoped, and you survive. You keep going.
And the second move, once you've named the fear and reality checked it, is to make the first step so small that saying no to it feels ridiculous. Not, I'm going to start a podcast. Just, I'm going to record myself talking for 2 minutes and listen back. Not, I'm going to learn Spanish. Just, I'm going to learn 5 words today. Not, I'm going to build a business. Just, I'm going to write down the idea. Friction reduction. Make the first move so low cost that your brain can't justify avoiding it. Because once you're moving, the whole dynamic shifts. The resistance that exists before you start almost always dissolves once you've started. It's just that first moment of initiation that's hard.
And the third move, and this is the one people skip, is to build in a way to reflect after the uncomfortable thing. Because when you do something scary and you survive it, your brain needs to update. It needs to register, we did that, we're okay. Otherwise, the lesson doesn't stick. You just feel relieved and go back to the same patterns.
So you take 30 seconds, literally just 30 seconds, and you acknowledge it. I did the thing that scared me. I'm still here. That went better than I feared. It sounds almost too simple, but that acknowledgement is what trains the brain over time. It's how you actually expand the zone permanently, not just for one day. If this conversation is helping you see your own comfort zone a little differently, hit the like button right now. It genuinely helps us reach more English learners around the world. Thank you. Now, I want to bring in something that I think is under-talked in conversations about comfort zones, and that's the social dimension. Because it's not just internal. Your comfort zone is also shaped by the people around you, the environment you're in. Completely. And this is something I think is really uncomfortable to acknowledge because it requires looking at your relationships honestly.
But the truth is, the people you spend the most time with have an enormous influence on what feels normal to you, on what feels possible, on what feels like too much.
If everyone around you talks about playing it safe, taking risks feels irresponsible. If everyone around you stays in the same city, the same job, the same routine, doing something different starts to feel strange, almost antisocial. You don't want to make others uncomfortable by growing, and sometimes the people who love you most are the first ones to say, "Are you sure about this?" Not because they want you to fail, but because they're scared too. Your discomfort mirrors their own unlived choices.
That's so well said, and it's not about judging those people or cutting them off. It's just about being aware of the invisible gravity they create and then finding, even if it's just online, even if it's just one person, someone who is already doing the thing you want to do, someone for whom your dream is already a normal Tuesday.
Because exposure to that normalizes it for you. Your brain sees it and thinks, okay, this is achievable, this is real. There are humans doing this. And that changes something. It lowers the perceived risk. It makes the edge of your comfort zone feel a little less like a cliff and a little more like a step.
And I want to end with something that I think is the most important thing about all of this. Getting out of your comfort zone isn't really about achievement. It's not about becoming more productive or successful or impressive. At the deepest level, it's about aliveness, about the quality of your experience on Earth.
Because here's the thing, the comfort zone is comfortable, but it is not fulfilling. There's a difference. You can be comfortable and slowly feel like life is passing by, like you're watching things happen rather than participating, like some version of you that could have existed never got to show up.
And that's the real cost of the comfort zone. Not the things you didn't achieve, but the person you didn't become, the experiences you didn't have, the conversations you never had because you stayed quiet, the relationships that never started because you didn't say hello, the work you never made because you never started.
And every single day, you have small chances to vote for that other person, the one who acts instead of waits, who speaks instead of stays quiet, who tries instead of watches. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be consistent.
One small step past comfortable, over and over. That's how the zone expands. That's how you become someone you're proud of, not through one massive leap, but through 1,000 tiny ones.
Okay, before we go, if this episode made you think, if something clicked for you today, please subscribe to English Echo Daily. We drop a new episode every single day, and every single one is designed to help your English and your life at the same time.
And we have a final question for you in the comments. What is one small, uncomfortable step you could take this week? Something that scares you just a little. Write it down. Make it public. Sometimes that's all the accountability you need.
We'll see you tomorrow.
See you then. Take care.